Thanks for coming back.
Oh, thanks for having us.
We love it when you guys are here. I don't know if you people saw or you had an opportunity to see a photograph that's been floating around today of, I think it was the second time Los Lobos was on eTown, and we had a wolf restoration organization on the show who brought live wolves to the stage. And Helen was sitting on the edge of the stage, and a wolf came over, and the trainer said, "Whatever you do, if they lick your face, don't pull away."
Note to self.
Note to self. If a giant wolf comes up and licks you in the face, just go with it.
That's right.
Anyway, there is a new book out, and it is called Dreams of Blue, and it's about Los Lobos. And I learned some stuff about you guys. You know, it's out there now. It's all out there. No secrets. One of the things I never really talked to you about before is Frank Gonzalez. So early influence and guy, and, you know, taught you some stuff, I guess, right?
Yeah, he was. You know, it was Frank. I think he was the brainchild, I guess, of this Los Lobos. But it was Frank and Caesar, the first guys to get to it. He should probably tell you about it.
Wow, that was good. That was good. That's really good.
There you go, Caesar. You're on.
It's always it's like a relay race.
Holy smokes!
Who's got the baton now? Is that an okay thing to ask about Frank Gonzalez?
Sure.
Yeah. So he was your neighbor, right? He lived.
Yeah, he was my neighbor. I also Dave and Frank were buddies earlier. We all knew each other from the hood, you know, and stuff. And I moved into that neighborhood, and I just we had just moved there, and we were. I was in the garage. I had the garage door open, and I was unpacking stuff. We had just moved in there, and here comes Frank, you know.
He was playing the mandolin or something,
like,
right?
Hey, I know you, you know me. You know, we started talking and stuff, and then later on, he was getting involved with Mexican music and stuff, and of course, I was born in Mexico, and I pretty well, you know all those a lot of the old songs and stuff like that. So he had a mandolin, and we started comparing, you know, ideas of songs and stuff like that, and then before you know, we would get together every afternoon and play songs and stuff, and then we called in the rest of the guys, you know. Yeah.
And then, and once you're playing that music, you probably would have made your parents pretty happy, right?
Oh, they were very happy with us.
They're nervous. Here we've got teenage boys. They're playing music in the garage, and then you come up playing that stuff.
Yeah, everything was safe again, you know.
Yeah.
Everything was. It was cool. Plus, we got really great meals, and you know, it was awesome. They were very proud of us.
We used to have there was a house behind Louis' house where he grew up. It was his grandma used to live there. But we took it over as a clubhouse. You know, it was the shack in back, not the shack in back, but it was that was our clubhouse. But so I'd show up early to practice, right? You know, I'd go to school and I'd come home. But I'd let his mom know I was there, so she wouldn't be afraid that someone was hanging, you know, like prowlers in the backyard. Right. And the other reason was because she would make me food, you know. Yeah. I said, I'll be back here, Lupe, okay?
It's the only gig we ever showed up early all the time, you know.
Just want to let you know.
Get there even earlier than Dave.
In case you're going to the grocery store, just want to let you know. Yeah. Well, you know, it must have been amazing to go from there and to play in the neighborhood and play weddings and play parties and get into that whole folkloric music, but then also to be lured into the punk rock scene that was going on in Los Angeles. And in the book, there's a story about your first gig opening for, I guess, Johnny Rotten's, PIL. And at a big show, and your family comes, and then you know, everybody's there thinking it's going to be a great big show, and it doesn't quite work out that way, right?
No. Well, there was Tito La Riva from the Plugs, and it was the other band after that, Tarantula. But anyway, the Plugs were opening the show, and this other band, 45 Grave, dropped out, so they had an open slot. He said, "Hey, let's call Los Lobos." And it could have been a mean joke, I don't know, because we're still. I mean, he was still playing guitarron. We're all playing folk instruments, so we're playing for this audience that had been waiting for. You know, the Sex Pistols came through, and they never played the West Coast, or they did maybe, but it was like, you know, late '70s. So all these people had never seeing, you know, John Lydon live. So all the old punk rockers, they all came out and they were like ready to. So they let us have it.
Yeah,
What does that mean?
I remember I told Tito, you know we play folk music right now and everything, right? He goes, no, man, it'll be great, man, just go for it.
And they threw stuff at you.
Oh, man.
Yeah, when the bottle started flying. Yeah,
Quarters.
Yeah, it was quarters, and they were flipping us off, and we got to flip them off too.
But then the bottles, man,
yeah, the bottles started coming.
When the bottles started flying in, that's it. We're out of here.
We're
out of here.
The really funny thing about that, to me, as I was reading the book and learning about that story, is that actually kind of turned you guys on. You were like, okay, we're going to go into that scene, and we're not going to run away from it. We're going to go figure it out, which was pretty interesting. Was it just you don't like rejection, I guess?
Yeah, that's right. That's what it was. Yeah.
But let's talk. I know we have a lot.
It was crazy, and it was like we're all pumped up afterwards. You know, it was strange. But then at the same time, you know, had bands like the Blasters, and you know, the main ones were the Blasters. You know, yes. American, you know, revival, you know, American music, and Sir Douglas Quintet reformed. So it was a good time where it seemed like it was wide open. You could do whatever you wanted to do, as long as it was something real.
Yeah.
And that's how we got in, you know.
Well, speaking of the Blasters, let's just tell us about how much of an influence Dave Alvin was as a songwriter, too, for you guys, because you weren't really writing songs in those days at that time much, right, Al?
No, not too much, you know. But after we opened up for the Blasters, you know. Well, actually, what it was is we gave Phil a tape, you know, hey, after one of the shows. And we talked for a minute, and then a few months later, I get a call from Dave Alvin, hey, you want to open at the Whiskey, you know. And so that was like the biggest, you know, they were the biggest band in L.A., and they were doing like a week of shows and having different bands open. So it was like the best place to be, you know. So we figured if we're going to do the show, we have to write some songs. Yeah. So, you know, Caesar came up with a song, Louis and I came up with a song. And that's how we did it, you know. Well, you know, but Dave he's such a great songwriter. He was a big influence. He was a big, you know, and I remember early on, he says, you guys need an anthem. You know, he says, we have American music. You guys need an anthem. So we came up with Will the Wolf Survive? That was our, you know. But he's the one that, you know, you know.
He also loaned you Steve Berlin for about 40 years.
Yeah. Much to his chagrin.
Yeah. Steve was in the Blasters over here. Listen, I don't want to... This is a great story about a great band, and this could go on for hours because there are so many really great stories, like the time they were nominated for a Grammy in the category of traditional Mexican music, and they're in a bar in New Orleans when the TV is on, and it announces that earlier in the day they had won a Grammy, and they said, hey, man, we just won a Grammy, and this old drunk at the bar goes, yeah, right.
That's right.
Or the time that they helped populate Paul Simon's record, and with little or no notice or appreciation. But we'll pass on that story because that's not as positive as many of the other ones. But then there's La Bamba, and then there's all this other stuff that happens. But the main thing, folks, the main thing I think is just that these guys keep making stuff up. They keep reinventing themselves with every project. It's new songs, new styles, new ways of recording. And so I just quickly want to talk about this festival that happens at the Greek Theater. So that's, in a way, that's kind of like coming full circle for you guys, I suspect, right? It's happens in the spring every year, right? Cinco de Mayo.
Cinco de Mayo. Yeah, it happened. Yeah.
Cinco de Mayo is usually in early May. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Louis. But, you know, if you're not going to talk about it, I will. So, it's a festival. Come on, you guys. You can do this. This is an interview.
Yeah, it's a festival we've... it didn't happen last year, but it happened 3 years in a row before that. So hopefully it'll happen again.
But it's a way for you to kind of pull your community together and curate it. I know Flaco Jimenez was there. I think Los Tex Maniacs were there. Alejandro, the Blasters played one year.
Yeah.
You get to say thanks. You get to expand your community. You get to be hometown guys. It must be an amazing feeling.
It's cool. It feels like a family reunion, you know. We do those shows because everybody comes out, and we have stages out front where, you know, local people can play, you know, local bands that get a chance to play something, and we have mariachis in between bands, and it's like, you know,
big old fiesta.
It's a fiesta.
Yeah. Well deserved. I mean, I think it's a great opportunity again for you guys to just sort of, you know, reconnect with that crowd, that neighborhood, that town that's given you so much, that you've been such a big part of. You've given back a lot. And I know what we didn't talk about early on in their careers, they went to schools a lot. In the early days of this sort of Chicano awareness, you guys would go to colleges, you go to elementary schools and play. And that was a big part of, you know, I think just helping solidify what became this foundation of, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm talking too much, but it's a beautiful story. It's inspiring. If you want to get the book, you can. It's called Dreams of Blue. And it's a nice, easy read, but it's a great story about this great band. Right. Anything else you want to add about your new record or anything like that? You guys have a new record. You should mention it.
Plug it.
It's called Gates of Gold. It should be out mid-September. No,
late September.
September 25th or 26th. Yeah, 25th. And I hope you like it.
All right. Let's get back to music with one of the best and most self-deprecating bands we know, Los Lobos.
All right.
Hi, this is Nick Forster from eTown. If you want to stay up to date with all the performances, interviews, and behind-the-scenes footage, click the subscribe button. Thanks.